Recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, so as I said, my name is Karen Gala. I am the tech lead for GTSC Moi in Kenya. So this is an AMA session, so ask me anything. And the topic for today is public speaking. So we have Andrew who's going to be taking us through that. Um, yeah, so basically the session is like the time comes when as a programmer you need soft skills. You might want to be maybe pitch an idea, you have a project like this one or a physical event, you need to talk to investors, like such as maybe you don't know how to quite stay on message. It's very understandable that these things can happen. So that's what Andrew is going to be talking to us about today.
All right. Thank you, Karen. I will dive directly in and get everything set. So hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for spending the time here today. I have a little presentation I'm going to do just to give you a couple of the ideas on public speaking. And then we'll just set it up for any questions. So we'll go forward from there. And again, I'm expecting probably be about an hour, maybe we'll see, we'll play. So let me go ahead and actually share my screens. I can tell you a little bit about what we're doing here. So my name is Andrew McMasters. My background, just to kind of tell you how I got to this spot. I am an actor. This is what I've done for years. I actually have my degrees in theater, and I've worked professionally in stage, television. I ran my own theater for many years, and so that was my background. What I did in order to be able to survive doing that was I worked for high-tech companies like Microsoft. I'm originally from the Philadelphia area, which is the East Coast of the United States, moved out to the West Coast of the United States and started working with Microsoft and Apple Computer. And I'll describe kind of a little bit about what my job was and sort of talk about that. That is where I really came into using the acting skills for a technical background, how you can use these acting skills to help to convey the ideas that you need to convey and get across technical detail in a way that's going to be engaging and charismatic and fun for an audience. So I'll talk about that in a minute. Our ideas today is really talking about how you show up authentic, powerful, knowledgeable. We're going to talk about how we manage fear, some story structures, and a couple of games that I want to share with you, and you can play with them later. So I'll just share them with you, and then you can figure out what you want to do with it later. That's kind of the key. As I mentioned, I did a lot of public speaking. In fact, this is a picture of me, a very young me, on stage for Apple Computer at Macworld. My job was to stand up in front of 1,500 people and to say, hi, my name is Andrew. I work at Apple, and I wrote this software. So let me show you how it works. And then I would demo it in front of all the people. And afterwards, people would say to me, could you tell me more? And I'd say, oh, I could, but actually, I'm just an actor. I'm going to hand you over to someone who actually knows what they're talking about, which is this technician over here. What I realized was that the reason that the technical people were hiring me was because they were too afraid to stand on stage and talk about something that they had spent 5 years of their lives working on. So when that realization came to me, I said, how do I help people to be able to share what they're doing? Because you're all doing fabulous work. So how do we share this work, and how do we make it comfortable for you to be able to stand on stage and do this? At the time that I worked for Apple, I was actually one of 5 people in the United States that did this work. And they would hand us a script that was about 25 pages long. You would spend one entire day memorizing it. At the end of that day, they would make you stand up on stage without the script and start to present. You'd stumble through. The next day, Steve Jobs would get on stage, he would present it, and then right afterwards, you would step on stage and go, great, let me tell you some more detail, and then you would go more into detail. That was my job. A little nerve-wracking, but I would love to know, and you could just tell me in chat right now, I just described this idea of what the job was for Apple, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I get a script, I have to memorize it in about 8 hours, and then get on stage. And I would just love to know, is that scary to you or is it not? So just tell me in chat, like if you were like, that is the most terrifying thing I've heard of before in my life, then put down a 1. And if you're like, yeah, you know, it sounds kind of fun, it'd be a 3. And then if you're like, that is something completely fun, like I would love it, right? Then put down a 5. I just want to know where people are. All right, Pam, thank you, Mary. Ooh, lots of 1s. Okay. Got it. Oh, 3, Rachel. Nice. All right. Somewhere in the middle. Good. The first, totally terrified. It's all right, Beryl. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. Manuel, 2. All right, good. Here's the reasons that I say this is the first step when it comes to the information you want to get across is how we manage that fear. And let's talk about where the fear comes from. Okay. So we're going to start there. I work with a neuroscientist in the Seattle area, a good friend of mine, Andre Gollard, and he talks about the brain, and then I do exercises that sort of use that part of the brain. So it's kind of a nice partnership we have. 2 parts of the brain that I want to talk about is right here, the amygdala. This is the fight or flight response. So it's a very fast processing part of the brain. It's actually one of the first parts of the brain to evolve in human beings. It operates on sight, sound, color, emotion. So it's a very fast processing. One of the latest parts of the brain to evolve in humans is the prefrontal cortex. This is rational thinking, pattern recognition, language. The way the brain is built is on a series of scaffolding. So there are twice as many projections that go from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex as there are that go from the prefrontal cortex back to the amygdala. What does that mean? What it means is that the moment that we get scared of something, right, or we get nervous, our hands start to sweat, our heart rate goes up, right? You start to feel your breath getting shallow. That is the moment where this amygdala fight or flight response is overriding your rational thinking. Your body floods with cortisol, right? We just start, and if you think about it, we are hardwired that way because when there is danger, right? Something dangerous is happening. We need to be able to move, right? We don't want to think about it. We just, We still feel that way, even though we're not going to die, right? We're just going to stand on stage and tell people about this work that we're doing. Or we're going to stand up in front of a bunch of investors and talk about our pitch. Or we're going to talk about what our idea is. We still feel this. Our brain still sees this as danger. So what do? First step, breathe. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'll tell you why. When you breathe deep into your belly, in other words, what happens is your belly expands. That is your diaphragm muscle, which is about the shape of a fist. You are breathing deep down, which means it actually expands downward and then comes back up. So you're breathing deep into your belly. Right. When you move the diaphragm like this, you actually stimulate what's called the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve goes from your diaphragm deep in your belly all the way up, and it disconnects the connection between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So deep breathing actually allows you to be present and stop freaking out. That's what it does. That's scientifically what it does. So breathe deeply. And actually, one of the other things that I tell people all the time is look at where your feet are. Concentrate on your feet. And I'll ask this question right now. You can tell me in chat. How many people have your feet flat on the ground? How many people? Just tell me yes or no. I just want to know. How many people? Feet flat on the ground. Do you? Yeah. Go ahead and tell me. It's great. When you put your feet flat, nope. Okay, Abby, it's all right. Put them on the ground. Put them on the ground. When you put your feet flat on the ground, what happens is you start to put your body back into alignment. This actually helps you to sit up straight, which then allows you to breathe naturally. So again, these deep breaths. Now, the key with it is, right, you have to be able to build this breath into what you do, right? Because you're not going to go, hang on a second, I have to get on stage and talk about my pitch. So hold on. Okay, good, let's go. Right? You can't do that. So what I always recommend is that you build in breathing into the practice. In other words, before you connect on your next virtual call, you wait for a second. Okay, good. And then connect, right? Before you pick up the phone to make a difficult phone call, you pick up the phone, you go, okay, good. And then you connect. I've had people before that practiced, they would rush around, and right before they'd go into a room, they'd grab a hold of the door handle or grab a hold of the door frame and just, and then step into the room. Those moments where you leave behind what has happened previously, breathe deeply, that helps your brain to reset, helps you to manage that nervousness and fear. So build that breath into the process. The other thing is holding objects in your hand. If you hold an object in your hand, like the clicker to move the slides forward, or a pen, something, or even touch the desk in front of you, that external focus, you are now feeling the desk in front of you. You're now feeling the pen in your hand. You're taking in information from where your fingers are touching the object. That becomes an external focus, and we stop thinking about the fact that we're freaking out. So another thing to do, just hold something in your hand. It kind of helps you to have a focus so that then you can be centered and do what you need to do. If it's a pen, don't do this because that's bad. No one likes that. All right, great. Wonderful. So that's just talking a little bit about what the fear is. The next question is that I always have to ask, because we are virtual a lot these days, especially since March of 2020. In the sense of being virtual, I would love to know right now in chat, you can just tell me yes or no. We've been online now working for about 15 minutes. It's about 15 minutes of sort of talking about some public speaking, some fear. How many of you have multitasked? Yeah, just put it in there. Yes or no. How many people have multitasked? Yeah, just tell me yes or no. I just want to know. Yeah, just be aware. Yeah, okay. It happens, right? Yeah. Oh, not really. Okay. Thank you, Abby. Woo. Why do I bring this up? This is another thing that takes you off of your game. When you multitask, right? If you think about it, actually, multitasking is not so bad. So long as it is all in service of one action. The best example that I have is driving a car, right? If you think about what it takes to drive a car, you've got the wheels, right? You've got pedals, you've got mirrors, you've got visual data, you've got all this stuff that you're concentrating on in order to go from point A to point B. That is multitasking. It is all in service of one task. On the other side of multitasking is what's called switch tasking. This is where you are on this program, and yet you're also going, I wonder what's happening on the phone. Hang on a second. Let me pet the dog. Oh, hey, I wonder what this. So those are all actions that are taking you away from a singular focus, which is being here, concentrating, and looking. When you have those moments where things take you away from a singular focus, that's what leaves you at the end of the day feeling fragmented, as if you haven't accomplished as much, feeling as if you have been pulled in many different directions. So be aware for yourself. What is switch tasking? What is multitasking? Right? If you are on a meeting with someone and you're looking at your email in order to get more data for that meeting, that's okay. That's multitasking. So really thinking about where your focus is and your concentration, that will also help you to stay calm and help to manage that nervousness in some ways. And one of the key pieces that I talk about on that is actually setting the example. You are all leaders. So how would you want other people to be concentrating on you when you're presenting, right? What behaviors do you want to see from people when you're speaking? How do you set that example? The example I use all the time is that if you are in a room and you are the third person presenting, what do you do for the first two, right? I think about what I'm going to say. I think about what I'm going to say. I go over my notes. Are they done yet? No, they're not. Okay. So rather than doing that, why not be the audience that you want to have when you're presenting by giving them attention, focus, being present, modeling the behavior that you would like to see. So think about that for yourself. As future leaders, that is something that becomes very important. And I say that from running my own company for many years. And I ran a company that was a little under $1 million US. The first time that I sat in a staff meeting and picked up my phone, I now give everyone else the permission to do that. So as the leader, I set the example. So for yourselves, think about, how do you set the example? And the key that I've always told people is, again, that external focus. I taught this to my actors in my company for years. It's that I don't want you thinking about what you're doing. I actually want you thinking about the other people in the room. I want you externally focusing. How do I serve the people in this audience? How do I help them? How do I get them to understand what this is? How do I make them look good? So it really is not about what you're doing. I think a lot of times we feel like we are the most important person in the room because we are presenting. It isn't about you. It's actually about the other people in the room. It's actually about them. You are there to help them, to serve them. When we start thinking that way, that also then allows us to work on that external focus in that way. Who are these people, right? What do they value? What do they want? What's in it for them, right? That's the WIIFT. What's in it for them? Why are they listening to you? So that basically you start to get the idea of looking at, who are these people? What do they think and feel? When we start thinking externally about our audience, how do I help them? We also stop thinking about the fact that we're sweating and that we're nervous. Or did I follow that piece? I'm thinking, oh, how do I help them to understand what this is? So that external piece, and I'm going to share with you actually a little empathy map that I have here. I'm going to put this in chat for you. This is just a standard piece. Again, it's starting to think about, who is this audience? What do they want? What is it that I can provide that would be helpful for them? So we externally focus on that audience and we prepare our presentation for who these specific people might be. Now, again, you may not know exactly who the people are who are going to be in the room. You can, however, go, what is it that we think they might want? So that you can prepare for yourself. Oh, actually, let me get these. Sorry, that was a direct message. Let me get this to everyone in the meeting. There we go. The link is there for the empathy map. This is just a resource that you can use in order to start to say, how do I want this group to think and feel? I am also going to give you one other link here, which is all of the slides that we're working on. So that way you have all of these resources. It's all available to you. Take a look at these things whenever you want to, just have that available. The next piece that I want to share with you is a little bit about story structure. when you are talking about what you need to get across, how we listen and how we hear has to do a lot with structures. What is it that people concentrate on? How do they concentrate? I love this quote just because it is that sense again of all good managers are leaders. All good leaders tell stories. The best stories are personal. So it's bringing yourself to what you do. A leader is a storyteller. So as you are thinking about presenting your information, think about the fact that you are a leader and you are telling a story. So I want to do a little exercise with everyone. Let's play a game. This will be fun. Okay. I'm going to give you a little structure to talk about storytelling. And this is the exercise that we'll play. I have drawn a line. I put the letter A above the line. I put the letters B, C, D below the line. I put the letter E above the line, the letter F above the line, the letter G below the line. So the next letter in the sequence would be the letter H. The question that I have for you is, if you're trying to follow the story that you think I'm telling you, where would you put the letter H? Would you put it above the line? And if you would, why would you put it there? You can just tell me in chat, why would you put it there? And if you would put it below the line, tell me below the line, and then tell me why you would put it there. I just want to know, if you're looking at this pattern and you are thinking, I wonder like what the story is, just tell me whether or not you think it would go above the line or below the line. So just tell me in chat what you think, above or below. Kind of see people thinking about it. Okay. Great. Oh, there we go. Above. All right. Thank you. Good. Okay. If anybody wants to, I'd say below. Okay. Couple belows, couple above. Thank you, Doreen. Thank you. Here we go. Below. All right. Below. Okay. Good. So this is good. This is good. Thank you. All right. For kind of sharing on this. So I have shown this pattern to people for a long time. People have looked at it and it's either been, oh, I think it would be this. People have said, oh, yeah, definitely it goes above the line, right? And I'll go, oh, okay, why? And they'll be, oh, it's this. And then I've showed the pattern to people and they'll be like, oh, it's below the line. It's a repeating pattern and it's this and it's this, it's this. And I've had people look at it and go, it's music, right? So it would go here. I've had people even look at it and go, no, the H is the line. Whoa, right? I know that's a little joke. Thank you. I'm going to tell you where I would put it because again, I wrote the pattern. So I can tell you what I was thinking. What I was thinking is that it would go above the line. And the reason that it would go above the line is because all of the letters that have straight lines go on the top, and all of the letters that have curves would go on the bottom. That's the story that I'm trying to tell you. Now, here's the problem, is I didn't give you enough data. And as human beings, we look at data points that we are given. We draw through lines between them, and then we create a story. Our brains are wired that way. We are problem-solving machines, right? So the issue is that the minute we see data points, we immediately go, oh, okay, this is what it means, even though we don't have all of the data to understand. So when you're presenting a story to someone about the work that you're doing, you want to make sure that you give them as much data as you can in order for them to be on the same story that you're on. Otherwise, they'll start going off in a different direction. This is the structure that I share with people. And it is a 7-line story structure. It is actually, it is the same structure, again, that Pixar uses for every film that they've done. So if you've ever seen a Pixar movie, all of the films are basically under this structure. Once upon a time, something happens. Every day, this thing continues to happen until one day, something changes. Now, because of this change, there are ramifications. Because of this change, there are ramifications until finally, and ever since then. That is our 7-line story structure. That's basically what it is. Just to describe it to you in a story. There we go. This is my little story that I wrote, my Pixar movie. Once upon a time, there's a guy who loves to garden. Every day, he plants vegetables. Until one day, a rabbit comes along, eats all of his carrots. Because of that, he neglects his garden. He goes hunting for the rabbit. Because he neglects his garden, everything in the garden dies. Till finally, gives up hunting, goes back to gardening. Finally, he grows enough vegetables for himself and his new best friend, the rabbit. There we go. That's our story. There's really only 3 parts to it to share with you. The first part is called the balance, which is where we are setting up what is happening. The next one is called the unbalance. This is where something has changed. And then the last part is called the new balance. This is where we have come back to some sort of a normal part. The reason that I share this with people is because a lot of times when we are talking about stories, what happens is people will start right about here. Let me tell you what I'm doing, right? Or I'm going to send the email saying, there's a problem here. This is on fire. And what they haven't done is actually told the whole story, which is, this is what I'm working on. And this is what's happened. And I'm hoping to accomplish. So as you are looking at your own stories, right? How is it you are telling the whole story so that your audience can make sure that they are following the data points you're giving them? When you talk about what it is you're building or what it is you're about to pitch, let's talk about what the problem is first. What is it that you're trying to solve? Hey, here's the solution that I've come up with because this is what I want to see in the future. That's telling the whole story. And it's a very simple 3-part project here, 3-part piece, just that balance, unbalance, new balance. So you can think of it that way. For myself, I actually use this a lot for just standard communication when I talk about working in offices and when I work with companies. It's about, rather than just sending the email saying, I need this data, I can say, I'm actually working on this project, which is why I need this, because I'm hoping to accomplish. What I've done is I've actually added 2 more sentences to what would be a simple email or a simple instant message or Slack message. However, I've now given the other person more opportunities to actually know what story I'm trying to tell, which means we can work together in alignment as opposed to different directions. So think of story as something that's a tool for you. And this is a very easy 7-line story structure for you to use. I'm going to give you, again, all these slides. So you have them available. You can pull that down. We're going to do one last exercise, and then I'm going to do some questions, and we'll answer any questions and kind of have a free-form dialogue here in a moment. I'd love to know, you can just tell me in chat, right? When we think about questions, the audience asking you questions, does that make you nervous? Does it not? You can just tell me yes or no. I just want to know, like, does it make you nervous? People are like, hey, you're going to ask me questions. Just tell me whether that's a little nerve-wracking. I'd just love to know. What I have is an exercise to help people to center themselves so that now questions can just be something else that reinforces your message, something that helps you to be able to get across what you want to get across. Here's the exercise. So the exercise is this, and this is just a fun, ridiculous little exercise to play. Actually, let's play this one live so we can do it. I'm going to have anyone here just ask me any question. You can just put it in chat, or you can come off of mute and tell me just whatever question. Give me a question, anything like, for most of you, it's Saturday night. Like, what are you going to do tonight? Or what did you have for dinner tonight? Or what did you have for breakfast today? Just any question at all. So you can type that in chat for me, just so I can practice this, and then I will show you how this works. What you're going to do is you're just going to play this game with friends. People are going to ask you questions. And then during your answer, you are going to insert these 3 words. And the words are 3-legged dog. There we go, right? Oh, this is good. All right. Well, I'm going to take Rachel's because Elizabeth, my favorite pet, is going to be too easy for me. I want a challenge. All right. What do you fear most in life? Thank you, Rachel. Wow, it's crazy. I'd say there's probably at least 3 things that I fear most, and I think one of them is being unable to work, being unable to do the things that I do, which would lead into the second one, which would be unable to help out my family, and my family is my wife and my dog. And the last thing I think would be unable to be mobile as I am. I am a very physical person. I like to go running. I'm pretty long-legged. So I really want to make sure that I am still active and around. So those would be my 3. It would really be being able to, be able to make a living, serve my family, and then be able to move myself. And that's where 3, dog-legged. There we go. So this is a game. I want you to play this with your friends and family, right? Just ask any question. And then you go, okay, how do I insert the words 3-legged dog into this sentence somehow? Once you practice that for a while, right? Go on to the next step, which is, what are the 3 words of your message on your presentation? What are the 3 words? If you take your entire presentation and you were to put it down into the key points, right? They don't have to be single words. They could be key points. What are those 3 key points? Now, no matter what question someone asks you, right? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. No matter what question someone asks you, you can insert your key points into the answer and bring it back to what you want to talk about. And if you practice this, let's face it, if you can fit the word legged into a sentence, you can do anything, okay? So for yourselves, look at what is that key points that I want to get across, and then how do I do that? And this is just an exercise game to play with your friends, with family. It's a fun game. It makes people laugh trying to insert the words 3-legged dog in there. It also helps you to say, I don't have to worry about questions. Questions now become something that's fun, because whatever question someone asks me, I can make sure I can answer it using my message and then bring it back to what I want to talk about. So it's a little bit about how you stay on message for yourself. One last piece, which is about, let's face it, sometimes things go really wrong, right? And how do you keep yourself comfortable? How do you keep yourself calm? One of the key things that I talk about is have a secret. This is something no one needs to know about, right? I have a pair of socks that I wear that has dinosaurs on the side. They make me happy. No one needs to know I have them on, okay? So what happens is, right before I get up in front of the group to do my pitch or to do my presentation, I can just think to myself and go, okay, I have dinosaur socks on, yeah. And then I get up on stage and I'm like, hi, everybody, how you doing? My name's Andrew. And people look at you and go, wow, there's something interesting, right? They're like, that person's fascinating. They're mysterious. They don't need to know that it's my dinosaur socks. It makes me happy. It makes me feel confident. So I wear them. There we go. So for yourself, whatever it is that makes you feel happy, something that gives you a little bit of personal confidence, a secret, right? I have a date later tonight. Oh, right, whatever it is, just something that makes you feel happy. I actually did not wear my dinosaur socks today, but I did wear my MC Escher socks. So I've got a kind of like weird thing. There we go. Great. Let me go ahead and give you the slides here again, so you have those available. Thanks, everyone. Glad you like it, Karen. Good. So we've covered a bunch of different things here today, right? We talked about how to manage fear, right? We talked about breathing. We talked about external focus. How can we keep people focusing on, how do we keep that external focus so that we are thinking about others, right? We've also talked about the story structures. how you could use story structure to help do this. We've talked about answering questions, three-legged dog. We've also talked about having a secret, right? Those things. So that's just a couple of quick, easy tips for you to help to do this. I am going to do one other thing here. I am going to toss you another link. Great. Oh, no, hang on. That's the wrong one. I want you to use this one. Don't go to that one. Go to this one. Wrong one. This one, the second one. There we go. What I'd love for you to do is click on that Menti, the one that's just Menti. The other one I will have ready to go. And what this is that I would love for you to enter in. What is it that you're going to take away from what we've talked about here today? So we've been talking for about half an hour, 40 minutes. And again, we talked about breathing, right? Staying centered, managing fear. We talked about externally focusing. The empathy map is there. We talked about the story structures, how we can stay on a story structure, how we can answer questions, how we can keep our own personal confidence. So I'd love for you just to go to that little Menti site and go, okay, this is what I'm seeing. And what I'll do is I will share with you as you're putting in these pieces, what are you going to commit to trying on your next presentation? How will you commit to giving one of these things a try and go, well, yeah, why not? What the heck, right? So just go ahead to that last link there, the Menti link, and click in it and go, this is what I'm going to commit to trying. And meanwhile, then we'll be able to share what that looks like with everyone, just so we can see it, because it's loads of fun to be able to do that. Oh yeah, let me resend this link. It is this one right here. That is the link there on the bottom. So yeah, go ahead and click on that, and then we will kind of share this with everybody. Oh, look at it. It's already coming in. All right, let me go ahead and actually share this so you can see it, which would be great. Wonderful. There we are. So yeah, you can see they're already coming in. Three-legged dog, breathing, set an example. Good. All right. Woo. So as you continue to add these in, this will just keep changing and keep altering up. What happens now? The truth is that you're going to go up to do your next presentation. And what you're going to do is you're going to do what you did previously. Because the human body always looks for stasis. We always go back to what's comfortable, right? The only way that you adopt any new skill and turn it into a habit is by keeping it top of mind. So for yourself, I want you to think about, I have this next thing, right? I want to practice it. Right before I go up, I'm going to make sure I spend a few minutes, do some deep breathing, and then I'm going to go up on stage, right? So I want you to really think about, what are the things that you're going to practice? How are you going to practice them so that then it becomes a habit? The goal is that you want it just to happen, right? You want to have practiced it so much, like a sport, right? That now all of a sudden your feet just go, right? Your body just knows what to do automatically. That's the key. We want to get to a point where it just happens second nature. So this is great. Thank you so much, everyone, for putting this in. I'm going to go ahead and actually stop this share at this time. And what we'll do is I'd like to invite any questions. This is the ask me anywhere, anything part. So I can kind of help out and see if there's some way that I can, if I can serve you with any of the questions or ideas you might have. Anyone have any questions?
Hello.
Yes, hello. Or if you do have questions, you can put them in chat too, and we can answer them, whatever works best. Or you can just come off of mute and tell me. It's all right. We're not that big of a crowd. We're all good.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, it's Elizabeth. My question is actually on the storytelling bit, the following the structure.
Yeah.
I think that's like my biggest challenge. I tend to deviate a lot. Like I'll follow the structure, but I'll probably take like 25 minutes before I reach the conclusion. So how can I go about like pointers that can help me to try stick to the, summary or the important bits of the story instead of having to refer to a lot of the background information.
Yeah. Remembering that in general, when people are hearing story, when people are hearing what you're presenting, the truth is the human brain really only can hold about 3 data points. So if you have a large piece where you're talking about a lot of things happening, it's about what things can you group together so that you can say, here's this, and here's the piece underneath it. Here's this, and here's the piece underneath it. Here's the final part, and here's the piece underneath it. It really is about grouping data together. The problem is when we have too many data points, people get lost in the weeds. So the biggest recommendation I have for you is find ways to group things under larger subheadings, because then it's more digestible for people to understand. And that even goes, I mean, I did for a number of years, I worked for Microsoft doing server load balancing. And by the way, I know nothing about server load balancing. However, there were complex pieces about how it works, and you have to just compartmentalize it into this is the issue when these things happen. This is what the ramifications will be. Here's the solution that we've come up with, and here's the pieces that will help with that solution. And then this is what we see as the future when we implement this solution. So it's really just looking at kind of that beginning, middle, end, the balance, unbalance, new balance, really thinking about 3 key points. I hope that helps, Elizabeth. Yes? Good?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good, you bet. A question from Beryl here. I have a question. How do you manage yourself when you make a mistake during presentations? Oh, breathe. And also remember, it's okay to make mistakes, right? I think what happens for a lot of us is we make mistakes and then we immediately start to beat ourselves up for the mistake we've made. My acting teacher used to say all the time, I don't want to see you beat yourself up over something you did wrong. I want to see you get better. So in those moments where you do make a mistake, it's actually a gift. It's an opportunity for you to go, oh, wow, I can do better. Great. So rather than it's reframing it in your own mind that this is a mistake, as opposed to, oh, this is an opportunity for me to do something different. And the key is, again, everyone makes mistakes. When you make a mistake, you appear human, which is what you are. So it's okay. And go, oh, wow, let me go back to this because I want to make sure that I'm clear. I think if you practice things like the 3-legged dog exercise more often, that will actually help you with the verbal agility so that you can come back to whatever it was that you might have made a mistake on. And again, look at it as an opportunity for you to be clearer and to clarify. I hope that helps, Beryl. Good. How do you keep the audience focused, capture attention, especially on virtual meetings? Yeah. You've watched me do it here a little bit today. I like to engage the audience every 4 to 7 minutes virtually. And that means I want you to come off of mute and say something. I want you to put something into chat. I want to engage you every 4 to 7 minutes. That's about the attention span to keep people from multitasking. Understanding that people are always going to be multitasking, right? It's their computer in front of them. There's stuff happening. I mean, even during this, I got a phone call from my dad, so I'll have to call him back later. Stuff happens. So we just have to breathe into that and allow people to kind of regain focus again. So finding ways to engage. Ooh, let's play with something. Thank you, Rose, for asking this question. I'm gonna actually play one other thing. I'm gonna share the screen again to my slides, and we're gonna play with an engagement tool that might be able to help you quite a bit. So let me go ahead and actually get this engagement tool together. Great. Oh, hang on a second. Sorry. Let me take care of these. Wonderful. What we're going to do is we're actually going to play with this, and we'll put it on one of these. Yeah, this slide is good enough. You'll notice that it says up above, you are viewing Andrew's screen. And there should be a little spot next to it that says options, more options, or view options. And when there is, actually, I'm not sure if we have it enabled here. Oh, actually, we do not. All right, that's okay. During various times on Zoom, we can enable annotations. And what that allows people to do is to actually go onto the screen and to draw things onto the screen. I have found that to be a really great tool for helping to engage an audience. If you're using Google Meets, you can pull up a whiteboard, and then that allows people to draw on that whiteboard, something that works together on this. And I have done things as specific as, these are the key points of my presentation. I'd love for you to go onto the whiteboard, and I'd love you to circle which one you think is most important, or which one you think is the most prevalent for you. So that is really using the engagement tools that you have, having people come off of mute, having people engage in chat, polls, and then also annotation or whiteboard. Those are really great tools to keep a virtual meeting connected. That's just one of my tips. Also, when you start to play with those tools, you start to get less nervous about, what am I doing? How am I doing it, right? You're engaging the audience, and you're seeing that they're engaged, and that is helpful for keeping you from being so nervous. That's great. This is good, Rachel. Most of the time I get self-conscious. What happens when we get self-conscious is, again, we are focusing internally. How am I being perceived? The key thing about getting yourself from not being self-conscious is about externally focusing. The two halves of the brain, we talked before about the prefrontal cortex. Prefrontal cortex is actually broken into two different pieces, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. The right hemisphere is always bringing in new information. The left hemisphere is categorizing that information based on what they've heard. When you are constantly working in the right hemisphere, as in, I am aware, I'm focusing, I'm looking at the people here. Oh, wow, look at the haircut of that person. Oh, wow, that's an unusual nose. When you're holding onto an object, right, you're taking in information from that object. When your feet are flat on the ground, these external focuses are actually firing up the right side of your brain, which is keeping you centered. And it stops you from thinking about categorizing and then getting nervous about, what am I doing? So the key thing when you start to get self-conscious on that is the external focus. Who is here? What are they doing? What do they look like? What are they wearing? Well, wow. And if you are working virtually, make sure your feet are flat on the ground, hold something in your hand, anything that can keep you externally focusing, that helps to keep the self-consciousness at bay. That's kind of one of the keys. If you are working virtually, I've had people turn off of their camera view as well, so that they're not watching themselves talk. Sometimes that helps people when they are getting self-conscious. Great. Oh, this is good. Vitalis, thank you. When speaking, my voice tends to disappear and you're not audible. First step, I know I've said it a couple of times, breathing. What happens when we are not fully on our breath is that then our voice starts to get weaker, and then it starts to disappear on this. However, if we are focusing on breathing and making sure that it's the exhale that we are then speaking on, that tends to keep our voice solid. The next step is practicing for yourself vocal variety and expressiveness. The easiest way to do this, tell stories to little children. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's a good practice, because what happens is you start to tell stories, and the little kids, you can do stories like, and then the monster came, and then, and you're practicing vocal variety, you're practicing storytelling, you're practicing how to kind of be full of emphasis, right? Expressive. That then shows up in your presentations. It's about stretching that muscle. So if you feel like your voice does disappear and you're not audible, that's my biggest advice, is tell stories to little kids. It will help you to be more present and to have more of your voice available when you are in that presentation later. This is great. Thank you, Ignatius. Wonderful. This is good. Do you have any weaknesses that maybe at times you think drains your confidence? Heck yeah. While also making a presentation before people you know, and mostly with your friends, do you ask yourself what they really think of you? Good question. I don't ask what they think of me. And the reason is because I know what I believe and I know what I value. And so I know what I stand for. I've spent a lot of time kind of in therapy or going through a lot of ideas of who I am and what I value and what I stand for. So I'm fairly confident about what my personal values are. When I'm externally focusing to this audience, I also think about what is it they value? What do they care about? How are those values in line with mine? So as a result, I'm really not thinking about how are you judging me? I'm really more thinking about how am I aligning with you? So it's a little bit less than that. And there are always things that drain your confidence. There will always be people who are going to ask you questions that are like, yeah, you forgot about this. Yeah. So those are, again, moments that you have to go, wow, what does this person want? Or what do they value? Okay, how can I help them? If you're working virtually and you find yourself getting thrown, this is my big tip. Are you ready? Okay, it's a little bit of cheating, but here we go. The tip is this. If you start to feel nervous and you feel like someone's putting you on the spot, or you feel like someone's judging you, and you're on virtual on a call, you can always go, oh, I'm sorry, your audio went out for a second. Could you repeat that? Thanks.
Okay.
I know. What does it do? It gives you a moment to make sure your feet are flat on the ground, to breathe, to think about what your response is going to be, and then to be able to respond. So use the technology as a crutch. You can say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, your audio went out. Could you repeat that for me? That'd be great. Thanks. It also, I think, sometimes makes the person repeat it, and sometimes they're not as accusatory, for lack of a better word, when they repeat themselves back. So that's my little cheater trip there. Good. How do you get past the odd silence when everyone's quiet and focusing on just you? Oh, awkward silence is so much fun. You start to enjoy it. I had a workshop yesterday where I asked for an audience volunteer, and it was 5 minutes of a staring match. It was great. It actually turns into a bit of a game. And again, I feel like it's not really focusing on me. I feel like it's more of if I've asked someone to volunteer and no one has said anything, it's actually more focusing on, okay, who's going to speak first? Who's going to break? So I actually think of it more as a game and more of it's about the audience. It's not about me. So I don't get nervous on that. That's just one of those pieces. It really is the external focus, right? How am I helping these people? The more you think about the audience, the less you start thinking about, oh, I'm sweating, right? How do you see with an audience that seems hostile, too serious, too quiet, intimidating groups of judges? Yes, Karen, so true. That is part of what the education system is in the world. What happens is people do things and then people say, let me tell you what's wrong with what you just did, right? This is called defending our dissertation, right? I do something, someone tells me what's wrong with it. The best way to combat it is three-legged dog. If you know what your message is, now no matter what someone says and they bring up, you can go, well, let me go back to my key messages that I'm talking about. And here's my key messages on these pieces. And I think what we'll find as we go back to these key pieces, that's really where we are. The other thing that I love is when people ask questions just to go, wow, that is a great idea. I had not thought of that. I'm going to take a note, and that's going to be something I'm going to incorporate for the next time. Thank you. When we thank them, that tends to dissolve some of the hostility. So, and you can also not know. It's okay to not know, because that just means you're learning. And the truth is, that's the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. If we really want to stay in a growth mindset, we can not know, and it's okay. It just means that now I've given an opportunity to learn something else. So really think of it as an opportunity. Great. Try the storytelling. Yeah, everyone. This is great for interviews. The three-legged dog is a perfect thing if you're doing an interview for a job. And that is actually why I designed the game. I had someone who I hired who was asked a question: if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? And that person said, oh, I would be an ash tree, because they're really tall and they have a large canopy, so they can protect a lot of the people underneath them. And yet they're also very flexible. And yet they come back straight up, which is a lot like my leadership style. I feel like I provide a good canopy for the people who work underneath me. And yet I'm also flexible in my decision-making style, but I know exactly where the bottom line is. And I'm going to come back to that straight up and narrow. So it was an example of using the three-legged dog exercise. The interviewer knew what they wanted to talk about who they were as leaders. And they used the tree as a metaphor to talk about it. So it is a valuable skill. Practice three-legged dog. If you can do legged, you can do anything. So there we go. How can an introvert get better at public speaking? Two different things, Rose, that I would say on that. One of them is start to think in terms of technical skills. If you watch people who are really great public speakers, politicians, one of the ones that comes up all the time is Oprah. She's just incredible, magnetic. People from all over, Jacinta from New Zealand, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, is just unbelievable. When you watch really wonderful, dynamic, magnetic public speakers, technically look at what they're doing. You will see them technically do things like pause for emphasis. And then you'll see them go through an idea that's very quickly, that does this, and then you'll see them pause for emphasis and stillness and watching the audience. Look for the technical things that people do. Then try to replicate those technical pieces. It does two things. Number one, you start to focus on an action. So you're focusing on an action as opposed to focusing on the fact that you're sweating. And then also it helps you to sort of replicate those best practices for yourself. So the best thing to do is start to look at people who are great public speakers and technically look at what they are doing. Again, it's too easy to get caught up in the emotionality of what they're doing because they're wonderful. But technically, if you can look at the skills, that's helpful. And I think it helps people who are introverted to start thinking technically about what those things are. Gilbert, great. When I'm talking about a topic that I'm very well familiar with, I think through it fast and end up leaving some details unmentioned, and people tend not to understand what I'm trying to communicate. Yes, this is something that I fall into as well. And I think you've seen it here in the last hour. I grew up on the East Coast of the United States, and we all speak very, very quickly there. The example that I use is Jew, now it's early, which is, did you eat? Did you? No, it's early. So I have to actually focus on slowing down. And I have to focus on making sure I pronounce my consonants. What I would recommend, especially if it's something that you do know and something you're passionate about, find the spots in your script, in your notes, where you make a big red X. And that's the moment where you go, all right, let me keep going on this because this is something that's really wonderful. Try to find the spots where you pause, breathe, and then continue. That breath will help to reset the speed variance that you have. And it also then gives the audience time to catch up because you're speaking so fast and you're excited about it. And okay, so you're giving them a time to actually get back on speed with you and catch up. So that's one of the pieces that I have. I think I got everyone's question. Oh no, there's more. All right, next. Do you practice public speaking through our day-to-day talks and interaction with friends and family? And it depends. I mean, I feel like most of my day-to-day talks with people are a little more off the cuff. They're less of a scripted piece that is a story I'm trying to follow. So I don't know if I practice it every day with interactions and other people. I practice some of the other pieces we've talked about here, the external focus. Am I trying to get across my message if the other person's getting confused? Those are the pieces that I think I practice more than anything else. For yourselves, look at what pieces you can incorporate into your everyday work. I mean, much like what you're talking about, Ignatius, if you can find ways to put this into your everyday work and your practice, wow. I mean, that's brilliant. It's wonderful. And it would just help you to continue to adopt the skills faster. So find ways to do that. That's wonderful. How can I best coordinate a group or team presentation? Thank you, Karen. One of the things that I've done for groups before is we've actually looked at what are the pieces of the presentation. And one of the ways we've broken it down to is who is the person who's the subject matter expert for each one of these pieces? Or even which one jazzes you the most? Which one are you most excited about? The reason that I use the most excited about is because when people are passionate about something, it's like you see their dinosaur socks, right? They just show up. They're just magnetic. Because if they're passionate about it, then they talk about it with the sense of, and then this, and that passion, I think, is infectious. And it shows people that they care. So when I put together a group presentation, we actually talk about what is it that you're the subject matter expert on, and then also what are you most jazzed about? What makes you most excited? Because I want that passion to come across in the presentation. I want you being passionate to that audience. I want them to see that you care. So that's one of my key things I do. Thank you, everyone. I know it's about 6 o'clock your time. It's about 7 a.m. my time. So I'm going to go get myself some coffee and breakfast, unless there's any other questions and I can answer it. I do want to thank Karen for making this happen. I want to thank Clifford for setting all this up. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come and speak to everyone. You have my information on the slides. If there's any questions, please tell me. I'd love to be able to send some more resources or answer any of the questions that you have. But thank you so much for setting this up and for making this happen. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thanks. Yay, Rachel. Thank you. Woo. All right. Oh, and Vitalis, you had one other question that's on there, and I'll answer that. Yeah. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Vitalis, you were talking about talking to someone who's superior. It is very much about status. Sometimes people like to do that, right? They will do the like, all right, so what are you going to teach me? So being aware and just understand that that's someone playing, and it really has more to do with them than it has to do with you. You have info, you're here to help, you're here to serve. The more you think about service, I think the better it is, and the more you can deal with people who are pulling status on you. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Enjoy the rest of your day, Andrew. Thank you for gracing us with your presence and your knowledge. We'd love to have you back again. Yes, everyone, thank you for engaging with us, engaging with Andrew, for your questions. Have a lovely evening and a lovely morning, Andrew.
Thanks. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
I'll end the